Well, not to worry, because now we have fish farms. Over 50% of all fish consumed worldwide are produced from aquaculture, which is growing faster than any other food sector. One reason for this tremendous growth is a very false illusion of environmentalism. Asia now produces 91% of all farm fish in the world. Shrimp, tilapia, carp. Well, here we have another interesting idea where fish are caught in our already ravaged oceans to feed other fish, produced on factory fish farms, sometimes at a ratio of 20-1, in the form of fish, fish meal, fish oil. 88% of all fish oil produced in the world now is given to fish on these fish farms. Well, very soon we're going to be running out of fish in our oceans. And very soon we're going to be running out of land to raise livestock. So we're going to be turning to this, a more closed-loop system of aquaculture called aquaponics, a combination of aquaculture and hydroponics that grows both fish and plants. Businesses are already snatching up abandoned industrial warehouses in many urban settings. This happens to be one in Chicago. Raising fish in tanks, growing vegetables with the wastewater on top, and then cycling it back to the fish. But all of these systems, every one of them, uses massive amounts of electricity, and all of them use massive amounts of feed inputs. 60% of all fish farms are land-based. Some are indoors, and some are outside, like this one that I visited. He's proudly showing me the protein that they produce there. Funny. Looks like a fish that they produce to me. And regardless of where the fish on your plate comes from, now or in the future, is the process of catching and slaughtering fish. Is that process humane? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? Because if it isn't humane, then why do we do it? Do any of you know what nociceptors are? Especially polymodal nociceptors. They're sensory receptors associated with feeling pain. All of you have them. Most mammals have numerous polymodal nociceptors in and around their face, their head, their neck. So do fish. They can feel this. In reality, there's no such thing as sustainable commercial fishing today, especially if you apply the three factors of how that word sustainable is defined by the industry itself. This is right from the industry. In order for a species or a specific marine species and fishery location to be certified sustainable, all three of these objectives must be met. There must be no negative effect on target fish itself. Well, we saw that that's impossible. There's no negative effect on any other species. Well, that doesn't take place. And there must be a means of verifiable monitoring. But again, less than 1% of all of our oceans are even protected or monitored. In reality, none of these factors exist for any fish labeled as sustainable. It's simply driven by our lack of respect for life in our oceans and driven by, of course, economics. Oh, and please note the sobering statistic at the bottom of this slide. Over 200 million sea animals are extracted from our oceans every hour. So why can't we give our oceans a break? Seems like the logical thing to do. That's what I would do if I was in charge of the oceans. What's inhibiting us from providing complete rest for our oceans, which is what they need? And it's been shown to work historically in various settings around the world. Well, is it because of economics? Sure. Sure it is. That's the argument. Global subsidies for the fishing industry are now at $35 billion per year, which then supports continued devastation of our oceans. Global revenues from fishing are at $90 billion per year, but only $16 billion of that is from deep-sea fishing. So again, $16 billion are revenues from deep-sea fishing, while fish sequester greenhouse gases. Not counting all the sea life found in our reef systems, which is considerable, recent studies found that deep-sea fish sequester up to 2 gigatons of greenhouse gas emissions per year. That equates to $222 billion per year savings in costs in our efforts to battle global warming just because of deep-sea fish sequestration of carbon dioxide and methane. So there's a clear argument, isn't there, for banning fish on the high seas strictly from an economic standpoint. It's in the other direction. Fish are more valuable if left alone in our oceans as live climate change mitigating agents than as food on our plates. $222 billion versus $16 billion. That's my math. With continued extraction, warming, acidification, and deoxygenation, Our oceans that we once felt were so robust will very soon be unable to support what few life forms remain in and around them. So then these are the timelines and tipping points for our oceans, and they look like this. This is not science fiction. It's not something I made up on the trip down to Orlando. It's reality. And quite sadly, this has all happened on our watch. You're looking at what we've created, or our parents have helped us create, and are passing on now to future generations. Our oceans provide half of the planet's oxygen, absorb half of man-made greenhouse gas emissions, and is the nucleus for our complex food chain. So it's very true that when our oceans die, we die.